Breaking Brown family, how are you? I think if you have checked the news today that you already know what we're going to be talking about. Unfortunately, again, in America, a black man has been killed over a taillight, and the officer who committed that killing has gotten away scot-free. And in this case, in today's case, we're talking about Michael Slager and the killing of Walter Scott. I don't know how many of you have been following this closely, because part of the issue was we had the election, right? So we had the election at the same time that we had Donald Trump, and at the same time this trial was going on. So, that was a problem. So a lot of us didn't pay as much attention to the Walter Scott case as we probably should have, but we're paying attention now, and that's all that really matters. This was the case for me. This was the case that I was watching. Like, this was the case that I was paying attention to.
What's so special about this case?
Well, what's so special about this case is we have, it looks, if you all remember the video, I don't want to show the video because I know people get quote unquote triggered by the spectacle of black death. But what was so interesting about this case was that it appeared in the video that Officer Slager dropped his taser near the body of Walter Scott to kind of stage the scene. And that's what for me set this case apart, in terms of what set this case apart from other cases, in terms of he said, she said, and we don't really know what happened, and we weren't there, and eyewitnesses can be wrong, Yvette, you don't really know. I think when you look at this case, we see the video. We know that, here's what we do know. We know that Walter Scott was pulled over for a taillight. We know that he took off running, and Officer Slager gave chase. And we're told that there was a brief scuffle, and then Walter Scott took off running again. But at the time of the shooting, the officer was 17 feet away from Walter Scott. So how can you tell me, or how can you tell anyone that you were in fear for your life when the person that you were afraid of is 17 feet away? They're 17 feet away from you. How can you fear for your life when someone is 17 feet away from you? So for me, I said, if the justice system wants to prove something to African Americans, this is the case to make it happen. If the justice system wants to prove that, when we do see a heinous crime committed against an African American, we do act. We might not act in all these other cases where we're going to take the officer's word, but when we have video, we're going to act in favor of justice. And that didn't happen here. And one of the reasons that it didn't happen, or the one reason that it didn't happen, according to people who know, one of the reasons that it didn't happen, there was one juror. I was reading a New York Times article that said there was one juror who was just stuck. Now I'm not going to show you the actual the shooting as it happened, as it unfolded. But I would like to show the first clip, which basically gives you a sense of how far they were apart. Let's, in terms of what does 17 feet mean? Let's talk about what that means to be that far away from someone. 17 feet. That's a long way. And so we have to talk about that. That juror inside there looked at that and said, you know what? I see what you say. I see the video 17 feet, but I'm not prepared to do it. I'm not prepared to have this officer deal with any jail time. So if we can't just see that clip. And like I said, I'm not going to.
Back to you.
And I want you to understand what that means. Now, here's the thing. Let's talk about let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened. Okay. We have. I read there was a black foreman. There was a black foreman in the jury. He was the only person. The only black person on the jury was a foreman, and he wrote to the black judge and said, and I quote, "It's just one juror that has issues. That juror needs to leave." This is the black foreman saying that, listen, we've all reached an agreement that Officer Slager is guilty. We've all reached that agreement that I don't know what they had a choice between murder and manslaughter. So I don't know what they would have chosen, but they said that we have reached a guilty verdict in this case. We were good. But there's this one guy. There's this one person. And I don't think we understand the power, because this person is white, the power that this white person had in that jury pool to say, you know what, I don't care what the rest of you all do. Do you all remember Trayvon Martin? And we had some, I don't remember what the woman's nationality was, but she was a minority, and she said, and she voted, to acquit Joy Zimmerman. Didn't have the power, didn't have the will to kind of stand up against this sort of thing that we were seeing. So, but this juror did, and stood up and caused a mistrial. They couldn't reach a unanimous decision. So I want to go to something else that really bothers me. If you go to clip number 3, Ta-Nehisi Coates tweeted something. He tweeted something, and it was very interesting to me. He said he was referring to the language used by the district attorney, who was supposed to be prosecuting this case. This is what we have, right? You're supposed to be prosecuting this case. Okay, so here's what she said. If Walter Scott had stayed in that car, he wouldn't have been shot. He paid the extreme consequence for his conduct. He lost his life for his foolishness. Now think about what that means. Think about what that means. Think about what she's saying right there. Now here's how the Times kind of justified that. Miss Wilson's concession, which she made during her opening statement, was something of an effort to immunize the prosecution from the theory the defense advanced throughout the trial, that Mr. Scott had acted in ways that made Mr. Slager fear for his life. I don't even understand what that means. Like, this is a concession that matters. What you're basically telling the jury is, hey, I agree with the defense that he would be alive had he not made a mistake. How is that a meaningful concession for the prosecution? You shouldn't be conceding anything. The prosecution sounds like the defense. That's what we have. And so the question for me is, if you're in a black community, and you don't have the tools to fight. Like, even if you look like, remember Ferguson? Remember when Ferguson happened? I think what most struck me about Ferguson, when you looked at it, when the DOJ came out with their report, it was clear that they were shaking down everybody. They were shaking down everybody. All these black poor people were getting all kind of tickets. They were always at the courthouse. If we can't defend ourselves against these, predatory court practices, I don't understand how we would ever be able to defend ourselves in a criminal case like this. And especially if the person who's defending themselves is dead. Like, if you, I don't even understand.
But you're saying it's the entire justice system. It's not just the juries. It's the cops. It's the judge. It's the bail.
Well, it's the cops. It's the judge. It's the bail. You have a justice system that is set up in opposition to black life. I mean, think about that. There's a justice system that is set up in opposition to being black, because being black in this country has consequences. So you have a justice system that is set up in opposition to being black. I mean, think about this. I want you to think about this for 1 second. Even Republican governor Nikki Haley said that this police officer had betrayed the public's trust. Think about that, and think about what that means just for 1 second. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm gonna take a quick break and tell you just to share it. I want you to like. It only takes a couple of seconds to like the video, and do that for us. But let's go back to what I'm saying, people. Let's go back to what I'm saying. I just don't understand the mechanism. And let's think about something else. Other than the black foreman, we don't have. You have 11 white men. Now think about Charleston's demographics. Charleston is 28%. Charleston is 28% black. 28% black. So I don't think I necessarily expect in a community that's 28% black to have a lot of black people on that in that jury pool. I don't think I expect, but I see that the white people in that jury, most of them did what they were supposed to do. So, when you're talking about, a lot of people want to talk about solutions. I don't know the only solution that I can think about in this case, the only solution that I'm saying that kind of makes sense is jury nullification. Like if you're going to get on a jury as a white person, and we have video of this man, of this police officer who's supposed to be protecting and serving, and we have video of him gunning down a black man who is running away, who is fleeing the scene, which is illegal. The Supreme Court ruled against that a long time ago. You're not supposed to even be able to do that. You cannot do that. If we can't do that, if you can't do that, if the law has said that this is something that you cannot do, this is illegal, and somebody in that, a juror in that courtroom can say, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. I don't care what the law says, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Then I don't understand why we can't do what we're gonna do when we get inside that courtroom, and we can't nullify juries too and say, listen, the justice system is broken. The justice system is just broken. So I don't care. I don't know whether this black man is guilty or not. I don't care. If the justice system is broken, I'm going to assume that the police officer is probably lying, and I'm a vote to acquit. I cannot in good consciousness vote to have this black man put in jail because I don't really know what happened and I don't trust the police. I mean, this is where we're going to eventually go if they keep doing this. Now, I know they said that they will prosecute. I know they said they will prosecute this again. They said they will retry this and they will start this all over again. They will start this process all over again. But, I just don't see any good faith coming from certain parts of the white community. Like I said, we should know that the rest of the white jurors in here were like, yeah, I think he's guilty too. But like this one person got to scuttle everything. Like this one, and I wish an attorney would call in and tell me what is the basis when we have to call in. What is the basis for being able to kick somebody off of a jury? Like, I want to know that. Like, what is the basis for saying that you can get kicked off this jury? Like, you're a racist. If this person says if a person says, yeah, I don't know blacks, I don't really hang around blacks, I don't too much like them, and that's just the way it is. Do they get kicked off a jury? Like, what is the basis for removing this person from a jury? Because you've just decided. What this means is that you've decided outside of the facts because we have video. This isn't a case where we have to listen, well, the police officer said this and he gets the benefit of the doubt. We got the video of him being so many feet away, and just shooting. And I want to go to, people are always, before we even get into the news, what people like to say is that, like, most police officers are good, and this is just an anomaly. This is just something that happens. And I'm not saying police officers are all bad. I don't think that at all. I don't think a lot of people would like to be in the communities that they're in and not have any police officers not be able to call 911. I think that happens. But what I'm saying is that, do you understand? This was North Carolina. This is Nikki Haley country. But do you understand that in South Carolina, there was another case, I think it's 2011, there was another case where a chief of police in a small rural town killed a black man. That was a separate case. In that case, that was Chief Richard Combs shot Walter Bailey. Okay? Now, he stood trial 2 times. 2 times. And got off 2 times. Mistrials. Same thing. He got off 2 times. And so you know what he ended up getting charged with? Misconduct while in office. Now you say, well, Yvette, what are the circumstances? Like, what happened? Like, Yvette, you're not telling us what happened. What were the circumstances behind that? Here are the circumstances. This black man who got killed by this rogue police officer was like a former officer himself. I think he was either a parole officer or he worked in the prisons. He was a black guy, had a black daughter who he loved and was concerned about. The black daughter got stopped by the police. She called her father. Her father and the police officer had a verbal altercation, but it didn't end in anything, and they both went their separate ways. So during the court hearing, the father showed up to testify on behalf of his daughter. Unbeknownst to the black father, this white chief of police of this small rural town had an axe to grind. So he gone and gotten a warrant against this black man for obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice just for a verbal altercation. There was a verbal disagreement. So he went and got a warrant for the black man. So when the black man showed up, and the black man's name again is Walter Bailey. You can look it up. Walter Bailey was shot to death by Chief Richard Combs. When he showed up to the court to testify for his daughter, they tried to arrest him. And he went back to his car and tried to leave. And then the white police chief started struggling with him and telling him, I'm going to arrest you, I'm taking you in. And then when the struggle started, he shot him 2 times in the chest. That's the kind of life. That's how quick. Now, this is a good black man that had a job, had a family, and the only crime he committed was being concerned for his daughter. And you know why his daughter had been stopped? Guess. Broken tail light. Black people are getting killed for broken tail lights. It does. I mean, and all because this cop. There was no obstruction of justice. He didn't get in the way. This black man didn't get in the way of you. You still gave the ticket and did what you had to do. He didn't get in the way. This man was just concerned for his daughter.
So people say, look, Yvette, the security cameras will actually get us justice. Will the button cameras get us justice?
It didn't. It just didn't. I mean, it's not a matter of whether or not. I'm just looking at it where it just didn't happen. So what am I supposed to say if it did not happen? It didn't happen. It didn't get justice. It didn't get I mean, there is no security camera in the Walter Bailey case, but there's no dispute over what happened. That was in Columbia, South Carolina. There's no dispute over the fact that this cop had an axe to grind. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, what I'm trying to figure out is what is the next move in terms of. I think we may be getting to a point where we just have jury nullification. Now, I want to say something else. If you are a person who does not show up for jury duty, you are looking at everything that happens in terms of and whatever happens in that courtroom. I know it's hard for people who work hourly. I know it's extremely difficult to have to show up and not get paid. That's difficult, and especially in the kind of lives that a lot of black people are living on the edge anyway. But you gotta show up. You gotta show up and be counted for jury duty. I mean, there's no other choice but to show up and be counted for jury duty. You don't have another choice. And people say, well, you know, why should I get registered to vote? I'm not telling you what to do in terms of voting or not voting, but just show up so that you can be a part of that jury. Like, we got to stop. I hear people all the time laughing and talking when somebody says, oh, girl, you know, I'm not going to do no jury duty. I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to find me a way out of that. And people say, ha, 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 that's so funny, girl. I don't like doing jury duty either. If you can get out of it, get out of it. No, we got to start shaming people. What do you mean you're trying to get out of jury duty? Like, you can't cry about all this stuff happening and post stuff up on Facebook and, oh my God, I'm so upset. I can't believe this happened. Look at this. Look at what they doing to us and look at how they treat us. And you don't even show up for jury duty. You got to show up. This is like one of the small things that we can do. I'm not saying that there would have been more black people, you know, on that jury in either of these cases, depending on how many black people there are in the community. But there is not a black person who should be trying to get out of jury duty. Like, you should be hoping you get picked for jury duty. You never know what kind of case you're going to be on. So
it'll probably involve a black person.
Yeah, I mean, it will probably involve a black person. And I mean, that's important. It's important to be represented, regardless of whether you were voting or what, and if you're voting, whether you vote Democrat or Republican or Green Party or whatever, it's important. It's important to kind of show up. We talk about solutions. That's one of the solutions. It's important to show up. It's important to be a part of jury duty. It's important to, you know, if things get rough enough, we may have to do jury nullification. But these things are important. I think the justice system is broken, but all the more reason that we have to show up and we have to be there and we have to be counted. There's no way around that. Like, there's no way around that. Now, listen, a lot of people are saying, well, when it comes to stuff like this, Yvette, you know, when it comes to something like this, where are our leaders? Where are the people who are supposed to be standing up for us? Where are those people at? And what I want to say is that a lot of these people are somewhere doing something other than helping black people. Other than helping black people. Because let me tell you something. I want to give you one example. I want you all to think about this. The civil rights movement, that was a movement for African Americans. That was our movement. That was us. And I want you to think about how much that movement has been used for everybody else, for other groups that don't benefit us. While we were drinking dirty water, you know, lead is a neurotoxin. It's not like drinking mud water. Lead is a neurotoxin. Mud might make you sick. It might give you an infection. It might do a lot of things. It could kill you too. But lead is a neurotoxin. But you see John Lewis. I want you to look at. I want to show you.
Show the picture. I
want to show you John Lewis. I want to show you what he was up to. Now, when you look at this picture that I'm about to show you, he's in a sit-in over gun control. And when this was going on, I told everybody, I said, he shouldn't be involved in this spectacle, and he certainly shouldn't be using the tactics of the civil rights movement while being engaged in a spectacle for corporate Democrats who do not care. Most of these people are neoliberals and do not care about us. He should not be leveraging that, mostly because it doesn't just belong to John Lewis. The civil rights movement belongs to all of us. It belongs to everybody who is a descendant of slaves, is an African American in this country, and who came from that. If that is your legacy, it's not just John Lewis. You can't just tell me, well, John Lewis is a hero of the civil rights movement. John Lewis is a hero, Yvette. That's who he is. So he can do whatever he want to do. Not with our civil rights movement, he can't. Because that's our political leverage. That's our legacy in this country.
So you're saying if John Lewis is the leader sit-in, it better be for an issue that directly impacts black. And there were issues at the time.
Yes, we always have issues. When have we not had issues? When have we not had issues? We always have issues.
So if he let us sit in for fair housing, you're fine.
I'm fine.
Let us sit in for lead water, clean water, fine.
Fine.
School funding for black schools.
Fine.
Right. Now, just some like BS gun control bill that's not actually.
It wasn't even targeted towards, like, you weren't saying,
no, it's
like
Sandy Hook.
You weren't saying like, well, the violence is out of control in Chicago. I'm going to go to Chicago and do a sit-in and talk about poverty and talk about how half of the black men in Chicago don't have jobs. I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about how that leads to them fighting on the street about crack and corners and drugs and all kind of degenerate behavior. I'm going to talk about that. That's not what he did. That's not what he did. And that's not what he's doing. He uses the legacy. He uses that legacy on behalf of other groups. That's his currency. That's the currency. Everybody has currency, right? That's his currency. His currency is I can give this. I get power and influence by giving this to other groups. And that's not the only. He didn't just give it to the anti-gun lobby. That's not the only group. Play the video. There's a video in there of John Lewis. It's an MP4.
Oh, okay.
And let's play that video and hear what John Lewis says when he gives his blessing to another group. This is another group that he gives his blessing to, at our expense. I mean, let's watch it.
I'm Congressman John Lewis from Atlanta, Georgia. I fought too hard and too long against discrimination based on race and color, not to stand up and speak up against discrimination against our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. I see the right to marriage as a civil rights issue. You cannot have rights for one segment of the population or one group of people and not for everybody. Civil rights and equal rights must be for all of God's children. No government, state or federal, have the right to discriminate against someone because of the color of their skin or sexual orientation. I see marriage equality as a step, a necessary step, in completing the long, hard struggle, what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called the beloved community. I'm Congressman John Lewis from Atlanta.
Let me tell you something. You are not, I'm going to tell you, you are not homophobic or anti-gay if you do not believe that the black community civil rights movement should not be leveraged for the gay community or any other community. That makes you a person who puts the black community first. It doesn't make you a person who hates any other community. And I think for a lot of reasons, we have been shamed into believing that criticizing any other group for using our civil rights movement to benefit their own purpose means that obviously we're bigots or obviously we're anti whatever you want to be anti. But this is just not true. This is not true. This is just not a true thing. He should not be using that. You saw him at the end of that video connect the civil rights movement to marriage equality in terms of gay rights, and nothing else could be further from the truth. I'm not saying that marriage equality shouldn't exist or shouldn't happen. What I am saying is every other community has to build their own movement. If in the LGBT community, you have to build that movement. If your movement is labor, we have a rich labor rights, history in this country. That doesn't even need to be built up anymore. But whatever you do, you have if your issue is gun control, you have to build that movement. You can't piggyback on the civil rights movement. And that's what happens. That's what happens every time. That's what happens every time. We allow the people who came from the civil rights movement, especially all these black people talking about I marched with King. If I had a penny for every Negro told me he marched with Dr. King, oh Yvette, you talk about I marched with King. I don't want to hear that. That doesn't give you the right to leverage something that belongs to an entire community on behalf of yourself individually. That's the problem with us too much. We think about things through an individual lens. This is not about us as individuals. This is about us as a collective group and how we're going to move as a collective group, how we're going to maneuver as a collective group. It's not about, leave John Lewis alone. No, John Lewis is disadvantaging me by wasting my political capital. Don't waste my political capital. This political capital belongs to me too, and it belongs to all African Americans. And just because you marched, and I'm happy you marched, and I salute that and I respect that, but you just can't tell me that. You just can't do that. You just can't treat me like that and treat the whole community like that, like it belongs to you as an individual. There's another clip there. What number is it? You all know, I think his name is Clarence Jones. Clarence Jones was a friend to Martin Luther King. That's who Clarence Jones. He was a friend to Martin Luther King.
That's a clip.
It's just an image.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That's an image. Okay.
And he was a friend of King, and now he goes around talking up Israel. It's inexplicable. It's just kind of inexplicable. You go around and you say that Martin Luther King would have been a friend of Israel or something like that. Like, that's what you say. Like, that's what you say. That's what you say. Like, that. When Martin Luther King died, he was fighting for poor people. That's who he was fighting for. He was fighting for the disadvantaged. That's who he.
Workers.
And these people. I mean, it was the poor he was fighting for. It was the poor people. It was the poor people he was fighting for. And you want to go around now and talk about Martin Luther King would be in favor of Israel. Like, there are poor people. There are poor black people in this country.
Yeah, but they're not paying Clarence Jones to speak.
And that's what it comes down to. I mean, and we got to take that back. I mean, that movie. What was that movie? That was a movie called The Purge. We gotta take that back. We gotta purge ourselves.
Clarence Jones has to eat too. He's worried about his kids.
Yeah, but you might have to get a job. You just can't live off of this.
This is his job.
You just can't live off of this. You just can't live off of telling us that. You just can't. I mean, I don't understand.
Clarence Jones will
how
come
that
to
works.
your birthday party and talk about King.
Oh my
He'll come to
God.
your bar mitzvah, talk about
Oh
King.
my God.
He'll do what you need. Your quinceanera,
And that's
Clarence
the way.
Jones
And
will
that's the
show
way
up.
the King kids are too, right? Isn't that the
He's
way
on the
that?
circuit.
Isn't that the way that the King's kids are right now? That everybody's trying to leverage. Everybody's trying to accept, maybe Bernita, but everybody's trying to leverage the King legacy and selling his property and stuff. You might have to work. I mean, you might have to, if you can start a nonprofit and get donations and do that, that's fine. But you might have to actually have a skill and be able to do something for yourself. You can't just eat off what you did 30, 40 years ago.
Well, you
and,
can if it's in
damage us.
service of black people. You can if it's in service.
But that's not really eating off of it. Like
Yeah.
if it's in service of black people, you're not really eating off of it. You're building on it. Like there's a difference between eating off of something and building on it. Like if Clarence Jones is actually out here fighting for black
Sanitation
people
workers,
and
yeah.
fighting for poor people, I'll donate to your organization. I don't care. I'm happy that you're continuing that legacy. But what in the world does Israel have to do with the plight of African Americans and what Dr. King was fighting for? And these are the people who we have representing us. So what do you think is going to happen as everything falls apart? What do you think is going to happen? So, we could probably take one call if we got somebody on the line right
Let's
now.
see what we got. Let's see.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
Hey, what's up? This is Antonio.
What's going on, Antonio?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
for those that don't know, I'm actually a former prosecutor here in Los Angeles. I've done hundreds of felony prelims. Now I do criminal defense work. So I guess I kind of called in as a legal expert of sorts to kind of discuss Walter Scott in a less emotional way than we're experiencing right now as Black Americans. And when I say that, I don't mean that in any condescending way, because I feel, as most Blacks feel, that it's quite obvious what happened. But part of what we have here is a misunderstanding of jury and the right of individuals to see things differently. One of the areas of review that I've consistently hammered home on is the true effects of mass incarceration and how that affects perception. And so what I mean by that is when we start off with the understanding that 10% of African American working age men are incarcerated. What does that mean in terms of how I feel fear towards African American men? Whereas when we look at white women, basically they don't go to jail at all. Basically, almost zero. And so when you deal with that, and you deal with that also in context of also the cops as well, which is we have very lenient rules as far as cops and their ability to do their job, right? Mm-hmm. What you have is a situation that I'm not justifying, but a situation that allows for a space for a juror to feel the way this juror did. What you asked earlier was a very specific question. You said, what are the rules to exclude a juror? Mm-hmm. So the rules kind of like, let's just bifurcate. There's one part of excluding a juror when you're selecting. Mm-hmm. So let's go to the second part, which is I think what you're talking about. Once we choose a jury. Now, basically what you're looking for is like wanton, like bad behavior, not just disagreeing with the rest of the jurors. So you're looking for misconduct, you're looking for sleeping during the trial, absence, lateness, illness, you're looking for actual presumed bias, you're looking for contact with the defendant even. You're looking for inability to concentrate. You're not actually looking for a juror that looks like they're actively engaged, understands the law, and is just applying it in a way you don't agree with. Mm-hmm. And so here, I think that's what we kind of have, where there's very lenient rules to how we see cops and the force that cops are allowed to be used. And this juror came to a conclusion, albeit that I don't agree with, that you don't agree with, but that he can justify, and he can't be removed just because we don't agree with that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But what does that leave us?
And so I come back, I back out, and I say, how did we allow for a system where this man is running away from basically child support, and we just all kind of ignored it away, where it's like, well, I guess he don't pay for his kids, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that leads to a justification for him being shot, but I am saying, going back to your example of not being on the jury, for him to be running from child support and child support to put black men in prison has been something that we've all hit around.
Yep.
But it doesn't put other people in prison.
No.
And so, like, we all want to get up in arms when we deal with the ultimate conclusion that something like this comes out, but we don't deal with the steps before that, you know?
No, I agree. Like, I agree. I mean, that brings into question, like, should somebody with child support, like, should somebody with child support
Be running away from
is that criminal? Like, I'm not saying that you should not pay child support, but is that something to where, yeah, you garnish the wages and you do what you have to do, but is that something to where you get locked up because you can't work, you can't feed a child if you get locked up?
Yeah, and you know, and we're talking about South Carolina. You know, it's funny, I was watching this one special, and I've shared it with you, that they showed, like, Alabama. They did this sting raid on people who hadn't paid child support. They basically promised them Alabama football tickets, and they would show up thinking they're going to get tickets, these black men, and when they walked in, they were tackled to the ground. And they did it to one white woman. They had, like, 3 black men, and everybody was laughing when they tackled them to the ground. But then they did it to one white woman, and they were so courteous. And I guess I'm dealing with the surrounding reality. I know it's like an emotional moment, so it's kind of hard for people to step back. But when we step back, when we start to deal with it, as an example, the lawyer from the Walter Scott family, when the jury was selected, said, jury makeup is no concern to the family of Walter Scott.
Oh.
I mean, here you have the foreman was black, the rest of the jury was white, and the family wasn't concerned. And I'm not saying that I can say that they specifically are wrong for that, but I'm just saying, like, we ourselves take a real raceless position on life as black people until it affects us personally in a real way, you know?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, I think all of this stuff, I mean, I think what you're saying is that too, like black people are okay with black men just basically, I mean, the example that you gave was so appropriate because you said that all these black men were kind of brought in to this space, right? And then they were tricked. And it's almost like for black people, especially black men in this scenario, like life is a trick. Do you know what I mean? Like life is a trick. Like you get tricked, and you get tricked into all kind of stuff and believing all kind of stuff. Like you and I have also talked about black celebrity. All of this stuff is just a trick to kind of keep you striving and kind of keep you in a certain mode. So I do think people want to deal with the end result, and the end result is like this dude gets shot by the police, but nobody wants to deal with the context that created the situation where he got shot by the police.
And also what nobody wants to deal with, and again, I don't say this in any kind of justification. I'm allowing you to get closer to the picture. That this is a traffic stop and an individual that ran off during the traffic stop. And how that, you know, so they contextualize it when we analyze it as 2 civilians in a traditional kind of like disagreement. But what they're missing is this wasn't that. This was a civilian running off in the middle of a traffic stop from an officer that's trying to arrest or question or whatever him. That changes the whole dynamic. Now, does it justify him shooting them in the back? No, it doesn't. But it definitely changes the way that a juror is able to apply the law. And I just think that in so many ways, when you start off with just a system, and I'll leave it at this, a system where in South Carolina, a black male is running from the police over child support because rightfully so, he's going to go to jail over it. You really got to question why he feels that way and how he got there. And you know, I'll let you guys go on that note.
Thank you, Antonio. I appreciate it. No, I think that's right though. I think you kind of have to question. I think you can. Somebody just said on the Facebook, what does child support have to do with getting shot in the back? Well, it has a lot to do with it.
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but it has a lot to do with it. Like, nobody wants to go to jail. Like, I've never been in jail. I don't want to go to jail. Like, if somebody, I don't know. And I think people got to stop saying, like, one thing people have to stop saying is like, well, if I was in that situation, I would do this. Well, if I was in that situation, I would do that. Oh, he should have just paid his child support. I don't know his specific situation. All I know is that I probably wouldn't have wanted to go to jail. I don't know how I would have reacted, but I know I probably wouldn't have wanted to go to jail. And I think we have to ask ourselves, like, what are we doing? I'm not saying I don't want anybody to view this as Yvette saying that black men shouldn't pay their child support. What I'm saying is, I wonder, like, it's almost as if the system is like getting black men especially comfortable with going to jail. And we have to ask about what does that mean? What does that mean in a country where black men don't really have jobs? Like, we're looking at black men right now and black women to a certain extent, but especially black men as a redundant labor force. Yes. There are no jobs. So if you don't have jobs and you have kids, you're going to just end up going back and back and forth to jail. You become a part of the system for being irresponsible. And so I think the question we should ask ourselves is being irresponsible a crime? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying irresponsibility and taking care of your children, that's a moral judgment that we're making. I'm saying, should that moral judgment be interpreted as a criminal offense to the point to where somebody is so scared they're going to go to jail when the police stops them, they take off running, and then the police decides, okay, I'm angry, I'm trigger happy, you really annoyed me by scuffling with me or whatever happened, I'm going to shoot you in the back, even though you're of no threat to me. So I think that's something that we have to think about. I'm gonna take a quick break, quick pause. If you're watching this video on Facebook or YouTube, please just like the video. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe to the video and share it. So we can try to do that and move that. And you can go to breakandbrown.com and donate. And I think I started a Patreon account, but I'll put that up. I'll put that up later. There was something someone else said in the Facebook Live that said the people have actually, the person who was the holdout on this jury has actually kind of decided, they have decided that holding out works, right? Like, isn't that what we saw a lot of times, even with the Tea Party and stuff like that? Like,
when white people hold out, they get what they want.
Well, isn't that what a lot of Republicans did?
Yeah, they hold out.
Then a lot of Republicans, they just held out, right?
Yeah,
they just held out. They just held out. They just said, we're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna sit on our hands. We're not gonna engage Obama on some of this legislation. I mean, that's once they got in charge. But I think that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that what they've decided is, hey, if I don't like it, I'm just not gonna do it, and like it's gonna work. Like, that's gonna be a good strategy for me to just be like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna just hold out, and I'm just gonna see how everything falls out. And if everything breaks along the way, I don't care, because I want what I want, and I'm going to get what I want. And I think somebody else said something that is kind of true, just in terms of, I think what Antonio said was interesting in terms of the rules, like what the rules look for. Like, what the rules aren't talking about what we think they're talking about. The rules are like, yeah, if somebody's nodding off, yeah, if this stuff is going on, but if somebody is just like has paid attention, even if they're being stubborn or whatever, but they paid attention and they're telling you, I just haven't reached the conclusion that you've reached. They have every right to do that. And sometimes I think the question should be, when we get on juries, should we do more of that or not? I don't know. Like, I think maybe we should. Like, I do know. I think maybe we should do that. If it's a little squeaky and I don't know, and I don't really know, like, and I'm not 100% sure, and I'm leaning some way, I think I'm gonna go for no. I'm not gonna convict. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%. I don't know. I'm not 100%. I don't feel comfortable. Like, we feel like we get pressured. Like, it's, well, no, I don't feel comfortable. And I don't feel comfortable, I'm not going to do it. And I can not do stuff too. I'm a citizen. This is post Dred Scott. I'm a full citizen. So I think all of that is something that we have to think about in terms of finding solutions for what is actually happening. So somebody just mentioned the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court said you're not supposed to shoot nobody when they're running away. But that didn't seem to matter too much. In terms of what happened in today's case, right? That didn't seem to matter. It just didn't seem to be an issue. So I don't know how much the Supreme Court matters in terms of what we're trying to do. I don't know. So do you have anybody who can take another call?
Yeah.
Let's take another call. Let's see what the people got to say, because I know y'all got something to say about this.
Yeah, looks like this guy's from Chicago, I think.
Hello?
Hi, Yvette.
Yes.
Hi, this is Lisa calling from Chicago.
Hey, Lisa.
And I just want to give your co-host kudos for discussing this. And I want to give you kudos for being able to discuss this while being black and not being fearful of white people continuing to say, every time someone is shot to no fault of their own, when black people get on TV, our leaders, this president that we have, the first thing the interviews tell them, and this is the question, well, black on black crime. That's the first thing they say. But white on white crime is higher than black on black crime because there's more white people. But they don't ask that question. And as these police officers, this is just execution.
Right, state-sponsored
And
murder.
since the patty roller law that was in effect in 1704, obviously it's still in effect. I knew it was over and had no confidence in this president that we have today when Professor Gates was putting his key in his door.
We're gonna talk. Let's talk about that.
Yep. No, go on, Lisa. Yeah, you're right.
In his door, and this cop comes and decides to arrest him. He has his ID, he has his key, and when President Obama had been in office 6 months, he came out and said the right thing the first time. This cop acted stupidly, and then they hauled his butt back into the room and told him, you're going to go out there and you're going to revise this and apologize to this white cop for arresting this white man to keep going in his house, okay? Because that's what he did. And not only that, you're going to have a beer day, a play date with this man as well. We don't have any legislators in office black. I don't need to see another black face being elected and not doing anything. Lewis, I'm over him. I'm tired. I don't want to hear about Martin Luther King. I don't want to hear about anything that they've done because they're not doing anything for black people. And I don't know how long it's going to take until black people wake up and start thinking about, oh, we have to vote for these people in just because they're black. And as far as jury duty and those kinds of things, when I go in for jury duty, it's almost like they petition more white people anyway. And you never have a jury of your peers according to the law. There's never a jury of your peers when it comes to black people. The system is designed to fail. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do: shoot to kill on sight black people, and we don't have anybody with a backbone in office or that really stands up against this type of behavior. And every time the president and anyone black goes before, when these shootings happen, and they have these press conferences, the first thing they say is, all cops are not bad. And it's like, I don't want to hear about all cops are not bad. I don't care about all cops not being bad. Address the issue. Because, see, white America wants you to say all cops are not bad. These are just a few black apples. Clearly, it isn't a few bad apples. This is a history. It's a legacy. This is what they do. We have no covering. We have no voices because, as you said, civil rights is for everyone. That's the only thing people got was symbols. They got nothing else. We never get anything out of the deal but symbols. I'm over it. I'm over this behavior about our leaders. People need to pay attention. These kinds of things are very, very important. And I want to say this to you as well. Instead of donating my $40 a month for the church, I'm donating it to your
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you. Thank you, Lisa, so much for calling in.
You couldn't be any clearer. I mean, I don't get it. I can't wrap my mind around this. I mean, I know why it happened, but we have no one with a spine in office that really comes out and say, hey, this is absolutely wrong, and not be apologetic first, and with the come in and first apologize for the cop. I'm over it. I'm done.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you
every time.
I'm right there with you, Lisa. Thank you so much for calling in. I want you to know I appreciate it. I appreciate your well-informed and thoughtful comment. I appreciate the support, too. I appreciate you, Lisa.
All right, so we're going to talk about Skip Gates.
Yes, let's talk about Skip Gates. I think we should. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, and be blessed.
You too, and you enjoy your night. She's right. Put it up. That's what Lisa was talking about. That's what Lisa was talking about right there. Lisa was talking about Skip Gates.
So we got a whole system If you're going after Skip Gates, that means you got a whole system that's going after black men.
Yeah.
So tell me, what happens, poor Skip?
Poor Skip, what poor Skip trying to get into his own house? Then he had a cane. When he on a cane? He walked with a cane, don't he, Skip? Grown man named Skip. But that's not the point. He walks with a cane. He's an older man. And he walks with a cane, and he was trying to get into his own house. And even after he showed the cop his ID that basically said, "I live here," the cop said, "Step outside," and then he arrested the hell out of Skip Gates. That's what he did. He took him and Obama said the right thing, because what you're supposed to be doing. Let's really think about what you're supposed to be doing as a police officer. You're supposed to be protecting and serving. Once you know somebody is in their own house, there's nothing to protect, and there's no way for you to serve. You're supposed to go back to whatever you were doing before you encountered him. But because he probably said something to you that you didn't like, or he made you feel some kind of way, your ego was damaged. So you decided, I'm going to show this Negro, I'm going to take him to jail. And then what he going to do? That's what you did to Skip. And then Obama said the right thing when he said, yeah, the police officer acted stupidly. Why in the world would you arrest somebody who is in their own house, and they have evidence? They got a driver's license
Apparently
that shows
Skip was
you.
upset. Skip was upset.
And Skip should have been upset.
This is his house.
Skip should have been upset, but that's the thing. Like, you don't get to be like black and be like pissed off at white police officers. So because you're pissed off, like, why are you coming here trying to act like that? Just goes to show you, like, even when black people get some money and they become like part of, like, in a good neighborhood with homes with equity, because Skip Gates is I'm sure in a white neighborhood, which means his house has equity, right? So you would think that
his neighbor called the cops on him.
Yeah.
Say that. I'm not.
Your neighbor called the cops. Your neighbor called the cops on you. What kind of neighbor are you? You don't even know that the little black man with the cane is the one who lives next door. Ain't nobody breaking in no house with no cane. Like, that's not a crowbar, that's a cane. And that man has gray hair. So Obama was right when he said the police acted stupidly, but then they said, look, Negro, you done pissed off the police by saying that. So you're gonna have to fix it. And he invited everybody there for beer.
I'll give him a picture.
He invited everybody for beer. He invited Skip Gates for beer, and then he invited y'all remember what he did? That's when I knew he was garbage, man. He invited Skip Gates, and then he invited the police officer. So the white police officer gets rewarded for dehumanizing a black man and treating a black man as less than. Even after this black man has money, he's trying to get in his own house, he still doesn't get treated like that. Do y'all remember the story of Dr. Dre? Dr. Dre, somebody was standing in front of his house. Somebody was parked in front of his house or something like that. This is a guy who is regarded as like a billionaire right now, Dr. Dre, and he told a man to move, and he almost got arrested. So the key question too is, like, what is the power of money here? Because even when you get the money, like, do you get the power? That's the question. That's the question. When you get the money, like, there are a few black people who get the money. Do you get the power that's supposed to come along with that money?
Police officer doesn't even have to smile. Isn't that crazy?
No, police officers don't have to do anything. A police officer don't even have to, like, treat you like a person. Like, he almost got arrested at his own. Like, these people who are doing well, who are almost getting arrested at their own homes. You can't be black. I know people who make $50,000 a year who are white who will never get arrested at their own house. Partly because they know people too. They know they have an uncle who works here, and my cousin, they know me or whatever. There's some type of thing that, a familiar relationship or the power of whiteness. I don't know. But if you're a black dude, you can be worth. Apple could have just paid you millions and millions and millions of dollars, but the person in front of your house could get you arrested. When you tell them to move, out from in front of your house, and you get arrested. You Skip Gates, and you get taken into jail for being behind. For trying to get back into your own house. And then you got to go, and him and Obama, would you sit beside this police officer, oh my God, wasn't this in Boston? Was this Boston?
Yeah,
oh my God. I hear it's really bad. I hear racism is worse than people talk about there. But I appreciate the comment that Lisa made in terms of how quickly black people are, the people who are supposed to be our black leaders are just kind of backpedaling on everything. They just, anytime something becomes controversial, there's no space in America for these black people to stand up on behalf of of African Americans. And I was telling Iremy before the show. I said, listen, the thing that's most interesting to me is how, like, if I were a congressperson, I was John Lewis, I know I got a pension, right? I know I got a pension from Congress. I'm going to get a pension. I'd be acting up something terrible. Like, I would just be on behalf of what I got to lose. Like, you're an old man. You know, you're going to be a pension. You're going to be well off. What do you have to lose for advocating specifically for the interests of African American people? What do you have to lose for just being like, listen, if it don't benefit black people, I ain't with it. If it don't benefit black people, I'm going to find somewhere to sit down. I'm not going to be bothered. If you bring me a bill here, I'm not going to sign it. I'm old. They done hit me in the head with bricks and stuff in the civil rights movement. I don't want to be bothered. Like, what stops you from just saying, you know, at this point in my life, I've had enough, I've done enough, and when I retire, I'm going to be okay because I've been in Congress long enough. What stops you from then being an independent person and being an independent advocate for the issues important to African American people? I don't understand that.
Yeah, you want to know what stops them?
What is it?
They got to look out for their kids now. They're not rich. They don't come from money. They're looking out for they're still trying to get that gravy train going, right?
Hey, what's the child's name? What's Elijah Cummings' kid? Elijah Cummings' kid drives for Lyft. Obviously, you can't look out for your kids anyway, or you're having a very hard time, or Elijah Cummings' daughter wouldn't be driving for Lyft. Do you understand what that means? The only reason we found out that she drives for Lyft is because she had the congressional plates on her car, and somebody was like, "Oh, this Lyft car has congressional plates." So they went and tried to find out, and they did some research and find out that the person at the congressional plates was Elijah Cummings' daughter. So what kind of power do you have as a black congressman? And Elijah Cummings is always on TV going toe to toe with Darrell Issa. I'm going, you know, we're on the same committee, and I'm gonna show him, look. Issa is a multi-millionaire. Your daughter drives for Lyft. You're not going to show him anything. You're not going to show him anything. She drives for Lyft. I mean, you can't even get her a job. You can't even get her. I know people who aren't Congress people who can get there. She's a college graduate. This is something. I think she graduated from Howard. I think she graduated from Howard. And she's driving for Lyft. You can't even get her a job. Like what? So what do you have to lose? You can't even get your kid. You cannot get your child a good job. Stop talking to me like you got any kind of power. You should just go for broke on the issues important for black people. Just do it. You don't have, why would you do anything else? You don't have any power right now. So whatever leverage that you have in those committees, instead of just shining shoes all day and doing that stuff, like, why don't you use that on behalf of African American people? Like, at least you would be well regarded in your community by people who understand stuff. I just don't understand why you wouldn't do that. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, what is the problem with doing that? And I don't think, I did that. I put that on my page a while ago. I said, look, his daughter drives for Lyft, and everybody was like, oh, Yvette, like, why are you doing that? You're just being such a hater. You just I don't know why you would say such a thing and be so mean to that girl. And it doesn't. I'm not being mean. I'm just talking to you about the consequence of not. I don't know whether you're not leveraging your relationships in Congress. I don't know. Maybe you're not leveraging those relationships. Maybe you're not doing what's necessary to kind of pull things. I don't know what you're not doing, but I know your daughter drives for Lyft, and I know that you. And so you talk about Darrell Issa like he's like Congressman Darrell Issa. I challenged him. Yeah, but his daughter's not gonna drive for Lyft. So you might as well just advocate for black people. You don't have anything to lose in terms of advocating for black people. There his daughter is right there. I mean, driving for Lyft. You don't have anything to lose for advocating for black people. At least that way we'd be proud of you. Just advocate for us all the time. Just go there and just do it. All the time. Just that's your job. I got something here about a legislation about amoebas. I don't want it. If the amoeba's not black, I don't want to hear about the amoebas. I don't want to hear about the amoebas if they
wake me up.
Do the amoebas wear afro? I don't want to hear about them. I don't want to hear about them. But I think you have to, and people say, well, Yvette, that's just silly. No, you have to have that kind of laser-like focus, because there are other people in groups in Congress that have that kind of laser-like focus about whatever community or whatever constituency they want to advocate for. And black people are worse off than all these other people. So I don't think we have a whole lot of choices in terms of advocacy. And I think we need to start getting rid of some of these people. People always ask, and I said I was going to try to, do a lot more in terms of in terms of solutions. And I don't think, I think in terms of what money we do have, we might want to want to consider a lobbying firm of some kind. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be like all the lobbying firms on K Street. I'm not saying that we can do that, but I'm talking about what we can do is maybe primary some of these people, and put some actual do some ad buys where we call them out for not being supportive of the black community. When's the last time somebody black put up an ad that actually says, you know what, you've been in there on the votes of black people, but you haven't been doing anything for African Americans since you've been in there?
All right, let's be clear what you're advocating for, Yvette. You're saying that you want to go after black people. This is black people going after black elected officials. You're saying that, like, no, if you're Van Jones in 2009, but you would go after President Obama. Like, you're saying that black people should go after black elected officials. You're going to get a lot of heat from that. What about unity? What about coming together? What about all of that? What do you say to that?
I mean, I think unity is great as long as you're working on my behalf. I'm not unified with anybody who is not working on my behalf consistently. I don't mean co-sponsoring a few bills and then letting them die. I mean, like when you go on the news, when you go on this stuff, I don't want you to talk. I don't want you to do Democratic talking points. I do this whole thing where I see all these people go on the news and they all saying the same thing. I see all these Democratic Congress people going on the news saying the same little talking points that everybody sit around. I want you to get those talking points, and then when you get on MSC, I want you to say, what about Flint? That's all I want to say. What about Flint still don't have clean water? I want you to be like Kanye West. Remember Kanye West said Bush don't like black people, even though he's the same person. Bless his heart. He's I hope he does well. I hope he recovers. But then he said he was gonna vote for Trump. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that when you get on there, I know what they want to talk about, but start talking about what you want to talk about. Just talk about what you want to talk about. Just start talking about, what they should start talking. Well, what do you think about Donald Trump and Pakistan? Do you know? Yeah. Do you know that you should? You know how you should answer that question. Do you know that 37% of black kids live in poverty? That's how you should answer that question. Well, what do you think when Donald Trump called when Donald Trump took the call from the Prime Minister of Taiwan? What do you think about that? Do you know that the top 10% of white people own nearly all the wealth? Just say that. I want you to answer all their questions with something about black people. Just do that. Like, I don't even care. And if they ban you from the news show, who cares? Like, then we can finally do our own thing. But you don't benefit us just checking your email every morning and getting something from the Democratic National Committee and going on the TV and just saying whatever the Democratic National Committee wants you to say. We don't benefit at all from that. Black people don't benefit at all from that. So that's what you need to do. Every time you get on the floor and make a speech, it ought to be something black. Right, so I got a black story to tell.
I got a good question. Barbara Jordan, Adam Clayton Powell. Which politician has ever been so bold? This is from Nicole. Can you think of a black politician who's ever been as bold as you want him to be?
Ooh.
Who's ever been as bold as you want to be? Or maybe you just don't get that high.
Some people bold but a little bit crazy.
Okay.
Like Cynthia McKinney was bold,
yeah.
but not bold in a way, not in the sense of you're controlled and you have your temperament is as it should be, and you have to be bold, but you have to be very controlled because people are going to try to paint you any kind of way anyway. So you have to be a very controlled person. You have to be very specific. You can't be all over the globe. Like, I would love to help disadvantaged people all over the world, but the truth of the matter is, I am a member of a group that is the most vulnerable and disadvantaged group in America. That's who I am. So that's who I have to be most concerned about. So I would love to talk about, and Cynthia McKinney has a very global kind of perspective. And I'm not saying that that's not helpful for a lot of different people. I'm just saying that I don't know how much that necessarily helps us specifically in terms of the needs of African Americans in this country. So you can be bold and still be problematic. You can be bold sometimes and not get anything done because you're just talking and you're not trying to get in the trenches and trying to write stuff and disrupt stuff that doesn't necessarily benefit the people who you represent back in your district. Because I know people always talk about, pork barrel flooding. Listen, if you can get some pork and bring it home, that's great. If you can get some of that money and bring it home, that's great. I tell people all the time to benefit. Capitol Hill, people talk about ideologies and being on the left and being on the right and all this stuff. Listen, People on Capitol Hill are doing anything but splitting up money. That's all they're doing. They're not doing anything but everybody's on Capitol Hill because that's where all the money goes. And everybody's trying to get a piece of that money. Like, forget about all the ideology. If you can get some of that money to your people, you're winning. That's winning. Getting that money to your people is winning. That's it.
I found one who is so bold.
First, talk about her.
Well, no. First, let's ask the people, good people on Facebook. Good people on Facebook. I found a black politician who's actually as bold and unbossed as we want to be.
Oh, you gave it away.
I gave it away. Was that too much?
Yeah, you gave it away.
Did I give it to her? So, Facebook, you got 5 seconds to put it in. Tell me, which politician am I thinking of?
Yeah.
The one. Who?
Which politician? Who's the politician?
Who?
And who do you think? Like, who do you think? Like, I want to know. Like, if you can tell me of a politician who you think is bold and that other politicians should remake themselves in the mold of. If you had to tell, like, if I was running for Congress tomorrow and you wanted me to remake myself in the mold of a politician, like, who would it be? I'm going to look at the comments right now. I just want to know who do you think it should be?
So, am I going to tell the people who I was thinking of?
Yeah, they got you, though. They got you.
They got me? Already?
They got
Here she is.
They got you.
There you go.
They got you already.
And this is the actual...
Bought it unbossed.
No, but like, here's the deal. This is one actually good thing about Hillary Clinton losing, because we got to take the good things where we get them. Hillary Clinton losing means that she's no different than Shirley Chisholm. Like, Shirley Chisholm, Hillary Clinton, same thing. So, like, Shirley Chisholm is still in the game. You're still, a black Democrat who is in the game. So, like, you want someone who is unbought and unbossed and unafraid to talk about the needs of black people. There's your woman.
Yeah. So we're going to get that. I mean, and some of this, like, there are limitations. I understand that there are limitations because there's a certain thing, in terms of campaign finance, in terms of Citizens United, there are problems in terms of what we can and cannot do. And I'm not saying that we necessarily. I'm saying that we have to become smarter in terms of if you're in a mostly black district, there's no way, and I've seen this happen on the local level. Like, I have a friend on the local level who was primaried and lost, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, how in the world did she lose? I think we have to be very, very vigilant in terms of protecting. If somebody is in your district and they actually start working for you, you have to be vigilant in terms of protecting them, and even if they because they're not going to get the big money. So they need you to be aware, because they're not going to get the big money if they're protecting black people. Protecting black people means you get virtually nothing in terms of dollars, and you need dollars for ad buys. And then they're going to give all the money to somebody else, and that person's going to be on the airwaves all the time. So you need to know, as a black person, you know what? This person is protecting me, and I don't care what kind of ads I see on TV. I want this person to stay in office because this person is my advocate. You have to be that way. There's no other way to be. There's no other way to be if you want people to actually represent you, and you want that representation to actually matter, because you want people to go there and fight for you. But nobody's going to fight for you if they don't know that they're going to be there the next year, that you're going to vote them out because you ain't paying attention, because you're not paying attention to politics, and you don't know what they've done in Congress to support you. Like, that doesn't work. So you have to be, this requires a level of sort of political intelligence that some of us are just unwilling to engage in. It requires a certain awareness of politics. It requires us to be grown and get off Instagram. I mean, it's just what it is. You can't tell me that you understand politics and you understand all this stuff and you want to debate me and everybody else, but you always on Instagram, you always watching the Housewives, or you know everything about the football that came on Sunday, on Monday, on Saturday, you know all the stats, you know everything. I'm not saying you can't watch a game. I'm not saying you can't watch a silly show. I have silly shows that I watch. I like iZombie. I like strange stuff sometimes. I'm not saying there's not space for that. You know, but it's just like food. You eat your vegetables most of the time, and sometimes you have a bag of Fritos. It's just the way it is.
There's one person that they mentioned who's actually doing good work, and I think
who's doing good work?
John Conyers.
Okay, is he?
Well, he was fighting for reparations. Conyers 1 was fighting for reparations. 2, he was actually fighting for Medicare for all. Like,
I think that's good stuff.
Those are two things, and both of that would like affect black people in good ways.
Yeah, I think that's good stuff. I think when these people come on TV though, like the reason that I learned that John Conyers had the reparations that he was fighting for reparations was because of the Ta-Nehisi Coates piece. Other than that, I don't think I would have known it. Like I need you when you go on anything, I need you to say, hey, I got a reparations bill. I don't care. Like, you gotta find the way to fit that in. Like, I don't know. Like, I remember one time a long time ago, I got into a debate with Roland Martin on Twitter, and I was telling him at that time that Obama wasn't anything, and he wasn't going to be anything, and he wasn't going to really do anything for black people. And Roland Martin said, well, he said, well, the thing is, I said, and I told him, I said, you haven't done anything to kind of push in that direction. And as a black journalist, that's part of your responsibility, to advocate for black people, because you like wearing loud colored suits and stuff. So you black, so advocate for black people. And so he was like, well, I wrote an article in the Essence or something that we have to hold him accountable. And what I said, and what I keep saying to people is just like, no, this is a drumbeat. This is something that you have to keep doing. This isn't just something that you do one day and you write an article to cover yourself. This is something that you do every day. When you advocate for African Americans, you do that every day in and day out. That's my job. That's how I see myself. That's my job, to advocate for this community. That's my job. In whatever manifestation that takes, that's my job. That's kind of my calling. So if that's what you see, that's what you have to do. You can't just write something one time and be like, remember that one time I wrote that article? Oh, I brought it up in an interview one time, and so I have been advocating. No, it has to be a drumbeat over and over and over and over and over again. Until it gets done. And you have to be a thorn in the side. If you're a politician, you have to be a thorn in the side of those politicians. You have to be a thorn in their side. That's what you're there for. What do you think black people sent you up there for? They didn't send you up there to just to say to read your email in the morning and see what the DNC wants you to talk about, and then run out to Morning Joe and go say what the DNC told you to say. That's kind of not your job. So.
Take 2 more callers?
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
Hi, Yvette.
Hey, how you doing?
Yvette?
Yes?
This is Vita from San Leandro. I'm enjoying this show. I love your show.
Hey,
I just
Vita.
started watching Ben Dixon. But you know what? We get down this Vita from San Leandro, but the solution is that we have the politicians, they look towards the voters, but it's social media now that they can use, because all their staffers are white, so they don't have nobody that's thinking black. Okay, on the Hill.
Oh yeah, I know
and
what you mean.
That's one thing. That's one problem. And then the other thing is that the black politicians, they looking for themselves. I talked to Representative Danny Davis out of Chicago on the Crow Show out of Nation of Islam the other day on the interview. And I talked to him about Chicago, the crime. He said, it's black on black crime, you know, and they people they poor, they don't want to work. I said, is that all you have? What have you done?
He said that?
He couldn't answer none of my questions. I talked to him about the Davis and Beacon bill, about the federal government, that contract bill where contractors can apply for federal contracts. I said, that bill's been on the books since 1931, and the Black Caucus, you guys don't bring it up. I said, but you guys will go out there and tote the water for Hillary. You guys are like puppets, you know. And he got all mad, you know. His whole thing. He was talking in circles. I mean, just like John Lewis. I mean, the NAACP right there in Baltimore. Right there in Baltimore, they got lead poison houses. And then President Obama gets on the TV and Flynn drink a clear glass of water and say everything okay. Oh, yeah. You got federal dollars that Loretta Lynch to hold out to these police departments. She has a law in the books, but she don't want to enforce it. She sits there and laughs with Chuck Todd about all you gotta do is create another column on what's that on Microsoft to add the data in. Shit, it ain't too hard. She said, "Oh, it cost the police departments. They don't have the money. They don't." The bottom line is, black people, please understand your oppressor, your enemy. You have to strategize around that, and you got to get the language down. You got to be like Newt Gingrich. Write down a list of words that you need to say every day.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
You got to practice. You got to do the language. You got to push that narrative. Every time one of them get on, they gonna say the same thing. Just like how Fox News, CNN, they say the same story. Trump, you know, they so stupid. I just want to say that. I understand them guys. our black people leadership, they are just done. They so beholden to the Jewish community money. They so worried about filling their damn pockets. They don't care. They do not care about. We got to understand that. So we got to force them to understand. We got to put some pressure on them. We got. I'm tired of being plundered. My nephew got killed in Oakland. He was sleeping in the car. Local police shot. Rookie cop shot. They watched him sleep for 4 hours. The fire department. Then all of a sudden they just shot him. It's sad.
No, I thank you. I thank you, Vita, for the call, and I thank you for the support. But no, I agree with you. I mean, I'm tired of it too. I'm tired of like, what black people have to go through and like have no advocacy, have nobody advocating them. Every time there's some type of anything that happens, we go advocate for whatever the Democratic line is. We go advocate for whatever. That's not our line though. The people that put you in office didn't ask you to advocate for that. Black people have needs, and part of the reason that we don't have our needs met is because we have politicians who advocate for us when they get home. When they get home, they advocate for us, but they don't advocate for us necessarily on the Hill like they need to. But they tough talk when they get home. When they get home, they tough talk. Yeah, I'm we got to do this, and I'm always. They got tough talk at home, but it don't mean nothing. And Vita said something that was very important. She said that a lot of the staffers on Capitol Hill are not black, and I saw some statistic. I worked on the Hill a while ago. I worked for Boxer of California, but when she was there, and I worked for Berry of Arkansas. But I read a statistic that said 80% of the staffers are white, and those people who are non-white aren't necessarily all African Americans. Now, I did see a larger number when I was there. I did see a larger number of African American staffers in the office of the Congressional Black Caucus. Liberals tend to have more. There were probably like in Boxer's office. I think maybe they were like 4 out of. There were a lot of staffers. But that's a big office.
Let's be honest though, they're black staffers in congressional offices, but like. Are they really black left staffers? Are they the kind of staffers? Is? What's going on? Where did they get cut out? You know
what the problem is? A lot of what happens on Capitol Hill is dictated by your chief of staff or your legislative director. The key question isn't necessary, and I wasn't a chief of staff or LD. The key question is how many black staffers are chief of staffs and legislative directors, because those are the two positions that matter the most. And I think you only see. I only saw a handful of LDs and chief of staffs who were black, and a lot of them were in like the offices of the CBC. And I think even when I'm trying to think, no, she did. I'm trying to think, but yeah, the key question isn't like how many staffers are black necessarily. The key question is how many legislative directors and chief of staffs on Capitol Hill are black, and I think that number is far less than just black staffers in general, because a lot of us black staffers are just like lowly and just don't have a lot of control and a lot of power. Yeah, you write the reports and the memos, but the LD is going to be the one to give everything to go ahead and be like, yeah, and that holds the power. Your LD and chief of staff, they hold the most power. So that's the key question.
Someone said I miss Marion Barry, and every time someone says Marion Barry, I just keep thinking I was framed. but apparently he did good work for the people of.
Apparently, as mayor, I mean, I work for a white Marion Barry who was, but it's not that one. But yeah, I guess people do.
I just keep thinking of that cocaine and prostitutes.
Yeah, but you gotta think that the government leveraged everything against him. Like, why are you going after somebody who just likes, whatever? I don't understand.
I was framed.
But yeah, but you was. They'll get you every time. Get you in there. Start talking about sex and cocaine, and next thing you know, you get locked up. Can't have nothing. No. Let me see. Let's take another call.
Hello?
Hello? What's your name, caller?
You know me, Yvette. We beef sometimes on the internet. I am very honored to talk to you. Eugene Williams.
Oh. What's your name? We beef on the internet?
Yes, but I respect you greatly.
I respect you too, bro. What's going on?
Hey, look. First of all, I'm glad you did this because it's a conversation we need to have. And I always learn something when I exchange with you. I go back and forth with you. But one of the things that I think we have to consider also, you were talking about the whole idea of black politicians and not advocating enough for the black community. And I guess what I'm thinking about is the fact that usually politicians advocate for those groups that support their campaigns financially. So I guess my question would be, how much money are we as a black community giving to these black campaigns on the national level so that they know that they have a lobby that's behind them? Because one of the things that really always bothers me is we blame the black politicians for not being strong enough advocates, but we don't support anything. Like even within the rank and file of the African American community, there's no one agenda that we all get behind, and that anybody knows, black, white, yellow, whatever, that if you say this about us or do this about us, there's going to be a lockstep agreement in that we're not having that. Even amongst the rank and file of the black community, we don't have that. So how do we combat that?
No, I agree. I said during Obama, before Obama got reelected in 2012, I said that before he got elected, one thing that we needed to do was come up with a black agenda, and present that black agenda not only to Obama but to black legislators, and basically say, this is what we want, this is what we decide. And I thought we should send people. It should be a conference of sorts where we chose not only where it was not only economists but people from unions and working class people, and everybody had their people in there, like somebody from the community of every state and region was represented, and we spent some time hashing out what is our black agenda. That way you can say, hey, this doesn't fit what we stand for, and we didn't tell you to do this. And so since we didn't tell you to do this, you can't do it. You're speaking against our interests. Like, you can't tell people you're speaking against our interests if nobody knows what your interest is. So you have to tell people this is our interest. We have, for me, my interest is the material well-being of black people. That
what are you going to do to put money in black people's pockets?
That means put money, like Iris said, that means put money in black people's pockets. That's what I'm in favor of. I don't want to hear all this other stuff about ideologically, this is how I feel. I don't care about that. I care about putting money in black people's pocket. Anything that's not about that, that's not on my radar. So I think that kind of narrows the field in terms of where I would put the black agenda at. But in terms of your other thing about the money, I think I'm not saying that we don't have no money. People are like, oh, you say we totally broke. I'm saying we way far behind. But I do think we have our votes, right? Like, that's the one thing that we do have to leverage. I think we should leverage that as far as we can. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't go online and give somebody $5 or $10, because that does count, especially in local elections. And I think to the extent that we can do that we should do that. But we should do that to people who are showing us, like, whether or not, like, that's why I say we might have to have at some point some kind of small lobbying firm to we grade you, and not as like the NAACP or anybody that's not owned by anybody else. I'm not trying to be negative on the NAACP, because they do some good work. But what I'm trying to say is I want an organization that is owned and run by black people to rate you in terms of what you did on our interests, and then say, hey, these are the top 20 black Congress people to give money to. These are the people who came through the most for us this year, and let's try to give some money to these people. They came through for us in a major way. This one passed this one got this bill passed. This one put in this amendment. This one went on TV 45 times talking about Flint. These are the people who were trying to move the ball forward and who did move the ball forward for us. And I think we should come together with a list like, these are the people you need to put your money behind. Stop squandering the money, sending here or there. What money you have, if you ain't got but $10, I need you to give it to these top 10 people. I think we could do something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what has to happen, because I keep hearing about how, we have black leaders who are not focusing on our interests, and to a great extent that's the case. But we also know, like you said earlier, you only have but so much power. And the thing is, like I said, people respond to who is giving them money. And I know I see it all the time. I see people all the time stunting and doing all these great things, and you got all these material goods and these possessions and all that. And my thing is, turn some of that around into some sort of, like you say, some fun to fund the people and to fund the leaders that we want. But my other thing is, I think we spend too much time looking for leaders, though. Like that's the other thing. We always waiting for. For me, I know we go back and forth that because I'm an Obama fan. I know that. Back and forth. But my biggest issue is we are always waiting for somebody to do something. You know, this black man's going to be our savior. My question was when Obama was like this. Yes, this is great, but now are we going to let, as black people, this moment slip? This was an opportunity for a lot of us to do some things on our own that we didn't do. And we just thought because we had a black man in office, everything was going to be all right. But black folks got lazy and didn't do their own homework and didn't do their own work in this particular moment. So I think, we could say all we want about what Obama did or didn't do, and there's some things that he fell short on. No question. We cannot continue to lie ourselves about that. But the thing I always want to do is turn back to us as supporters, as the black rank and file, as the black masses, and say, so we had this man in office. Did we encourage our children to spend more time educating and advocating for themselves? Or did we continue to be on Instagram, and did we continue doing all the things that you talk about? What did we do to capture this moment as people who are supporting this man in this historical moment? That's my problem.
Okay, bro. Thank you for the call. I'm going to address I'm going to address your points, but thank you for the call, brother. I appreciate it. I don't think there's no question in my mind that black people to a large extent got lazy and fell. We kind of like fell asleep under Obama in the sense that we thought that this was a black man. He's black like me. He's going to do what's good for me, and I'm going to go over here and do something else. I'm not going to follow him. I'm not going to really dig deep into whether what he is doing right now is in my best interest. I'm going to trust whatever the Root or News One tells me. And that's just going to be it. If they tell me Obama's doing a good job, I'm going to still pass around pictures of the president and going about my business. And I think the call is right in terms of where we fell short as a community. Like politics isn't a beauty contest. You don't just elect the person that you like the most and then be like, yeah, it's not like Miss USA or something like that. That's not how it works. So what happened is that we don't understand. Like what I've always said is that you have to understand that politics is an exchange. You're exchanging your vote and your money sometimes, if you donate to a politician, in exchange for a set of policy initiatives. That's what you're doing. And to the extent that you don't see those policy initiatives, that means that politician is failing in the exchange. And that's a problem. You should not be failing in the exchange if you're a politician. And that's what this is. So we should have held Obama accountable. It's just like walking up to a store. You walk up to a store and you give somebody your $50 and you expect a pair of shoes. And they give you an empty bag. Well, hold on, this is an exchange. I give you the money, you give me the shoes. You don't give me a bag with a receipt. That's not how this works, but that's what we allowed to happen with Obama. We said, oh, okay, Obama's there. He's our boy. He's going to take care of us. Obama got swag. Obama got Michelle. He got his black wife and his black kid. Oh, honey, it's going to be all good. Well, how'd that work out? And I don't think we necessarily saw Obama as a messiah in terms of he's going to do everything for us. I didn't. I knew, very early on. I voted for him, but I was like, give him a shot. If he's a black guy, give him a shot. And I voted for him. I know a lot of people didn't. But I said give him a chance, and I knew very early on that he wasn't going to do a lot of the stuff that he was trying to talk and say he was going to do. So in terms of like how we fare, I think some of that is our fault. And I think, you don't have to, we live in a very interesting time, right? You don't even have to I like books and I read articles, but you don't even have to, we live in a time where you don't even have to read. Like in the sense of to get information. Like there are so many YouTubes out there with professors and videos and stuff about, and synopsises of books that provides you with that information. But you have to engage. You have to kind of like the caller was talking about. You can't be on Instagram and on TV and I gotta watch my shows tonight all the time. You have to say, I'm gonna set aside some time to kind of learn about politics. I'm going to set aside some time to figure out what happened in politics this week. I'm going to set aside some time to listen to Yvette. And maybe Yvette's going to tell me what happened in politics this week and think about what we should be doing. You have to set aside time to be politically engaged. And to the extent that we don't do that is to the extent that we fail. And we have to even do that more. We have to do that more than white people because they have more latitude. They have more leeway. They don't fall as hard as we do. They don't go through what we go through. So I think, not to the extent, people say, well, I know a lot of people say, well, white people are poor too. I know that, but I'm not saying there are not no poor white people. I'm not saying that there's nothing that we can do. I'm just saying that this is what it is. Do we have one last call, Army, or no? Oh.
Yeah.
Let's take another call. Hello, caller?
Hi, Yvette?
Yes.
Hi, this is Colleen. I wanted to
Hey,
say
Colleen.
that maybe part of the reason why they don't advocate for us, black folks, is because when they get up on the hill, they probably don't want to make any waves. They're so happy to be there. And they know that this is a lucrative gig, so they want to just fall in line with what's going on up there. So I really don't know that we can really put our trust or our hope in what they can do once they get into elected office, because they haven't proved that they would do anything for us anyway.
No, Colleen. Yeah, Colleen, I think you're right. I think a lot of us are just grateful to come to the party. Like, there are a lot of us who are just grateful to be invited. We are on Capitol Hill.
And just like you said, we want to take selfies.
Yeah. And we're happy that we've made it. I mean, people don't understand, like, if you've been on the Hill, that there's an aura, right? You're a part of America, There's this big dome building and the American flag and you're getting pulled through, the security.
And there's plenty of money to be made up there. They want to play along.
Yeah.
There's money to be made there.
Yeah, that's where all the money
And
goes.
so what we have to, what I'd like you to talk about is alternatives. These elected officials have not proven that they're going to help us. So help has to come some other way. We have to organize outside of them because they're not helping.
But I think we have to also organize to remove them, like because the thing is that because Colleen, the thing is they can do things, like they do things, like you have white politicians that do things for their people all the time, so it can be done. So I think I do think we have to organize. I do think you're right.
Like you said, they have to get a different mindset.
Yeah.
You just said that politician, he's got a pension. Why doesn't he advocate for us? Because it's so entrenched in them. When you talk about the homosexual cause, I'm not against LGBT people, but it's not civil rights.
No, I agree with you.
We don't get to choose what color we are.
Well, you can't hide it unless we had a few people to pass back in the day, but you can't hide it. You can't hide what color you are. So I think it's very interesting. I do believe that we have to organize outside of them as well, though. I think there's a lot of stuff, and I think some of that has to be done on a local level, because a lot of times it's also easier to organize against your local state lawmaker than against the person who's on Capitol Hill. But I think we have to kind of do all of it, because we're in a precarious situation in terms of where we come from. There's nothing wrong with us. The fact that we persevered this long is extraordinary. But I think we have to organize on a lot of different levels. So I think
what I'm going to do is ask you one question about this Injustice Boycott Sean King's put out today, and I'll hang up so you can answer.
Okay, what is it? You can let me know.
All right.
What did he put out?
Okay. You haven't heard?
No, I hadn't heard. I saw something about it, but I thought it was old. What was it?
It started today. The Injustice Boycott. Sean King's got that going. You're not aware of it?
I heard he had an Injustice Boycott, but I'm not aware of the specifics. What does it do? What is it? I mean, what is he want you to do?
They're rolling it out. They're rolling it
out.
But what
are we boycotting, Colleen?
They're boycotting. There's 4 things, I think. Tourism, the banks, and something else.
Oh.
And in New York and in San Francisco.
Okay.
Because of Black lives and because
San
of
Francisco,
injustices in the police department. You got to read up on that and talk to us about your thoughts on this on Wednesday.
Sean King, I will,
regular
Colleen.
supporters. We love you.
Thank you,
And
Colleen.
I'm surprised you didn't tell her about that. You're supposed to.
Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate it.
Girl, not know what's
I
going on
know.
in the hood.
I know. I didn't know. I saw something. Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate your call. But I saw something about it says a tourism boycott, pulling money out of banks, financial institutions, large corporations that either support racial injustice and police brutality in those cities or have not come out against them, and protests in the city that will be designed to shut down the work of businesses and end city government. Well, you know what? I don't like to be opposed to anyone who's trying to do something, because there are enough people who aren't trying to do anything. So I'm not going to say that I'm necessarily opposed to Sean King, what he's trying to do. And I gotta look up specifics though in terms of what he means in terms of these cities that are involved in injustices. So I'll look at that and give it some thought, and I'll come back Wednesday and I'll talk about it.
Real good. Thanks, Yvette. We love you. We love you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Keep her informed.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Yeah, Ironman. Why didn't I know about that? Why didn't I know about that, Ironman? I blame you. I got PhD philosophy people up here, and I didn't know about the boycott.
Sean King's making moves, I guess.
Yeah, apparently I gotta look into it. Like, I'm not trying to, I don't just down everything else that's not mine. I gotta look into it. If it's good, if the ring is, what did the president of Liberia say one time? If the ring is good, we'll wear it. So if the thing, if I look into it and it's good, I'll get engaged in it. I've said for some time though that you have to do something as opposed to like
nothing, yeah.
Sharing pictures of like black people being mistreated and hurt. Right. So I think this is at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
I'll look at it.
I feel boycotts are complicated for me in a few different ways. One, I think that there's so many multinational companies now, so it's not like the great boycott. It's hard to boycott and actually have that mean something, because they'll make up the money in China or in Indonesia or someplace else. So like the boycott as a form of protest has gotten trickier over the last few decades. NAFTA wasn't good for the boycott. But something is better than nothing.
Yeah,
something is better than nothing.
That's how I kind of feel. I think I agree with that. I mean, I think it's real tricky because of where we are now. Because of everybody, and all this stuff is interconnected. I remember looking at something one time about all the stuff that the Koch brothers own, and they were so intertwined in so many different companies. It was just so hard to kind of pinpoint because they had so much stuff. So it was just like, how do you and they have everything that you need, from like paper towels to, and like, okay, I can't get this, but then they're invested in this, and then they're here and then they're there. So it's kind of like, how do I move? How do I maneuver myself to kind of be a part of this boycott when you're everywhere? It's not like you just own a bus. Like, and if I don't ride that bus, then, or if I don't buy this specific type of cup, then or this type of computer, then you're gonna go broke. Like, they're much more diversified in terms of what they have. So I would agree with you. I mean, it's very complicated, but I'm gonna look at it. I'm not gonna shoot it down. I'll look at it.
That's good. Thank the people.
Thank you, people. Everybody, it is about time for us to get out here. It's almost 11. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for calling in with some great calls. I want to thank everybody for actually the people. If you haven't liked it, if you haven't liked the show page, or you haven't liked it, please like it, please share it, please subscribe, please, and please come back Wednesday. Remember, we're on Monday and Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's our start time. So 9 p.m. we're here, and I guess one thing we'll talk about on Wednesday is Sean King's new project, and we'll discuss the benefits and pitfalls. And when I talk Wednesday, I want to hear from some of you all who are actually participating and what you think about it, and some of you who are not participating and what you think about it. And you know what? I want to hear what some of you believe and think about Sean King and what he presents. And I've only met Sean once. I don't know a lot. So I just want to hear what you think and what you believe about all of it. So I get my cues a lot of times from you guys. So I want to hear from you. So bring that when we talk again on Wednesday. I want you to bring that. I don't know what the topic is going to be yet for Wednesday, but when we talk again, I want you to bring that to me and just talk about, let's talk about what we need. What do we need? We need a lot of stuff, but let's talk about what we need. I appreciate everybody. Thank you.